All right, so it says the school cafeteria bought 354 and 50 hundredths pound of ground meat to make hamburgers. They used 339.5 pounds. So they're using that. Okay, they're taking it out of the amount that they have and using it to make hamburgers on a Tuesday. Okay, so then they freeze the ground meat they did not use. We're trying to figure out, our end goal is to figure out how many pounds they would put into 8 containers. All right, how many pounds they would put into 8 containers. So this is a two-step problem. We first need to figure out how much meat for the hamburgers that they are actually freezing. So if they used a certain amount, use tells us that we have to take away. We're taking away 39.5 from the total amount that we were given of the hamburger meat. Okay? So we're first going to subtract 3, 5. And remember, when we subtract, we want to make sure that we are lining up our digits based off of the place values and the decimal points. Okay? The 3 is in the tens place, the 9 is in the ones place, and then I put my decimal point, and then my 5. I can add a 0 for a placeholder, and then I can start subtracting. So before I start subtracting, drop my decimal point straight on down. 0 minus 0, 0. 5 minus 5, 0. 4 minus 9, I can't do, so I have to go to the 5. The 5 becomes a 4, and my 4 now becomes a 14. 14 minus 9 is 5. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then 3 gets brought down. So now I have a total of 315 pounds that I will be freezing. So if I'm freezing 315 pounds, I'm having 8 containers. So I'm taking that 315 pounds and divvying it up into 8 containers. I'm putting a little bit in one container, another container, another container, another container. So in a sense, I am dividing that number up. So I have to divide 315 into 8 groups. So my first question as I ask is I have to ask how many times does 8 go into this number? So how many times does 8 go into 3? Well, that's 0 because 8 times 1 is 8, so that's too big, so it has to be 0. So I put my 0, and then I begin to subtract. 3 minus 0 is 3. I bring down my 1. I ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 31? Well, 8 into 31, 8 times 4 is 32, so that's too big. So it has to be 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. And then I subtract. I can't do 1 minus 4, so I have to go to this 3. The 3 becomes a 2. And the 1 becomes an 11. So now I have to do 11 minus 4, which is 7. Bring down the 5. And then how many times does 8 go in to 75? Well, let's think about this. 9 times, because 9 times 8 is 72. So I put my 7, I put my 2, and then I divide, subtract it out. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now remember what I told you. You can add a decimal point. Once you add a decimal point, you can add 2 zeros and you'll have enough zeros. You can add 2 zeros after that, okay? Because normally they always ask you to round. And if they need you to round, it's usually to the hundreds or 10 spot. So now I can bring down one of those zeros. Before I have to subtract, I want to make sure that I bring my decimal point straight up. It shoots straight up, so straight up. So now I got to do how many times does 8 go into 30? Well, again, 8 times 4 was 32, so that's too big. So I have to do 3, which is 24. And then I subtract it. 0 minus 4 I can't do, so the 3 becomes a 2. And then it's a 10, and you'll have enough, believe me, I will have enough numbers for you. 10 minus 4 is 6. So you have 6. And I will move this down so you can see it. 6. And then, whoopsies. Then I bring down my next 0. So I bring down my 0. So how many times does 8 go into 60? Well, 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 8 is 64. So it has to be 8 times 5. So I put my 5 up top. So there's my 5. And then I put my 56 below the 60. And then I would subtract. 0 minus 6 I can't do. So the 6 becomes a 5. And the 0 becomes 10. And 10 minus 6 is 4. Now I could keep going, because then I would bring down, I could add another 0, and I would bring down a 0. And if I bring down a 0, I would put another 5, because 8 times 5 gives me 40, and then that would be the answer. However, we are going to use 39.35 as our answer. So we have 39 and 35 hundredths pounds in each container. All right, so that fluency was that fluency had a lot of steps in it. But you subtract, then you're going to be dividing. All right? Good luck.